What's up guys, Shawnthebro here, and we're back for another episode of the fighting game tutorial series. So in this episode we are going to continue cleaning up our hitboxes, because if we clean up our hitboxes, then we will be able to continue cleaning up our animation blueprint. And as we continue cleaning up our animation blueprint, we will be able to continue cleaning up our game mode. And once all of that is done, then we have a clean game so that we can prepare for rollback netcode and AI and story mode and things like that. As I've been saying for these cleanup episodes, I really want to make sure that our logic is solid and efficient so that things work properly and as expected when we get into more advanced mechanics, because otherwise we're going to implement hacks on those more advanced mechanics and then have to clean them up later. I'd rather have everything in a good spot getting started than any cleanup that we need to do afterward is just for those new systems, which won't be as much and as bad. So specifically in today's episode, we are going to remove a few old functions from Hitbox Actor BP, convert some more functions to code from Hitbox Actor BP, and convert some variables to code as well. So it's going to be more cleanup in the same vein as what we've been doing in the last few episodes. So with that out of the way, we can get started. But before we do, if you want to get caught up in this series and check out how we've done everything in this tutorial series, from our input buffer, you can see on the left-hand side of the screen there, animations being tied with attacks and spawning our hitboxes, and a whole lot more, you can check out this playlist in the top right corner right here to see every single fighting game tutorial series episode that we've done to date. Alternatively, if you just care about hitboxes and keeping your hitboxes clean, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to watch the whole series, but I do recommend you watch the other episodes on hitboxes because we are building on top of that logic today and cleaning it up to improve it. So if you have that old logic in here, you will be more familiar with our system and you will understand why what we're doing in today's episode is cleaner, faster, and better. That's that, and now we can hop into it. This is a code and blueprint tutorial series, but as I mentioned, we're converting lots of logic from blueprints to code today. So let's go and start in the blueprints. The only one we need to focus on today is our Hitbox Actor BP. So if we go to Blueprints, Functional BPs, Hitbox Actor BP, we can come in here, and a few things we can do right off the bat is delete the determine true hit stun function. This was actually something that we did in the previous episode. We already converted this logic from blueprint to code, and we replaced all references, but I forgot to delete it. So we might as well delete this one. You may have already done that because you remembered to, but I forgot, so make sure you get rid of it now if you haven't, because we no longer need that function in the blueprint. Next up, we want to convert our set visibility based off game mode function from blueprint to code. This is our easiest one to convert, so we might as well go ahead and knock this out, and we'll get rid of some of these variables, put them in the code as well to make our lives easier. So set visibility based off game mode. Essentially what we're doing in this function is using our game instance ref to determine what type of game we're in versus practice, story, arcade, or online. And based off of these modes, or the mode that we're in, we have to determine if we really want to show hitboxes. Maybe you have the ability to show hitboxes in certain modes, but they're toggled off. And then in other modes, they're always toggled off, such as online play. You may never want to show hitboxes in online play, where other players can see those hitboxes. So we'll just set them to be invisible, and nothing in our game will allow them to enable those hitboxes visibility while we're going through it. It is a very simple function, so let's start converting it. We call this set visibility based off game mode. And I'm going to go to my hitbox actor.h file, and I'm going to scroll down to my functions here. So if I go to my actual class, and we can keep it a public function for now because we may want to call it from other places. And we can come in here to below calculate final stun, and I will say set the hitboxes visibility based on the game mode type. Modes type, something like this. It's not really the game mode, the specific game mode, like what a game mode is on Unreal. It's just the mode that we're in for our game. So I want to keep that clear and match the other comments that I have throughout the code. So based on the modes type, then we will make it function blueprint callable in case we do want to call it from the blueprint. And it doesn't have any return values, so it is void, and it doesn't take in any parameters. It doesn't have a parameter list, so we just have to determine what we want to call it. Void set visibility based on game mode type. So the blueprint function is just called set visibility based on game mode. I added the type word there because then it's clear I'm referencing the enum instead of just the specific game mode class instance or class type. If you call it the same thing, it's perfectly fine. When you go back into the editor after making this function, it will just say you can't have this function since it already has the same name, and you can delete it. We're going to be deleting it anyway, but we won't get that error since they are different names, so just be aware of that. So set visibility based on game mode type. Then we go to hitboxactor.cpp and we go to where we want to add this, which would be below calculate final stun, void a hitbox actor, : set visibility based on game mode type. We just have to mimic the behavior that's in the blueprint. So the first thing we do here is get our game instance reference variable. I did the same thing with our camera. I'm not going to store a reference to our game instance in the code class, as it's very easy to just get the game instance. We can simply do if u base game instance, which is the type of game instance that we have in our game. See base game instance.h. Scroll down here, the class is called ubase game instance. Pointer, and we'll just call it base game instance, equals get game instance, parentheses. So if this comes back true, this means that we were able to grab the game instance, and this function is one that exists within Unreal so that we can just grab the game instance from anywhere. But we're keeping a reference to it and storing it as our own type. So to do this properly, we need to cast the game instance here, put parentheses around it, to ubase game instance. So cast the game instance to our type, and if that succeeds, store it in this variable base game instance. And at this point, we will know it's valid, so that will take care of this section right here. Additionally, to access this type, we will have to include the base game instance. So to do this, we can go up to the top below, include hitboxactor.h, and type include base game instance.h. That will give us access to this type, and we are good to go here. Let's go into the editor. And now we were grabbing the game mode type variable that we had off of our game instance reference, so we can simply do base game instance, arrow operator, game mode type. And what we were doing with it is putting it into a switch statement of that type. So we can make a switch statement here, switch, parentheses, and in the parentheses we put our type that we want to perform a switch on. So we're going to perform switch on base game instance game mode type. And in here we can have what are called cases. So you do case, the name of the case, colon, and it's going to be e game mode type, : and we need to decide what type we want to put. You could technically do it in any order, so the way it has it here is the order that I've set them up in the enum. So if we go to this enum in the base game instance.h, you'll see it's versus, practice, story, arcade, online. So when we look at this in Hitbox Actor, blueprint, versus, practice, story, arcade, online. You don't have to follow that order, so feel free to change it, make it alphabetical, whatever you want to do. I'm going to keep it in the same order. So first one is case, e game mode type, : e _ versus. Pretty much for every case here, it's going to be the same thing. So you have a few different options. You could manually go through, have every case, and do the same logic in it, or you could do what's called an intentional spill through, which means you're going to have multiple cases here, and they're all going to trickle down to the same logic. So we could type case e game mode type, : story, e _ story, : case e game mode type, : e _ arcade, : and case e game mode type, : e _ online, : and I believe this is in the same order as this. It is. So all of these are going to be setting the hitbox mesh, which we have as a variable now in our code. It's going to set the visibility to, and this is going to be hidden. So new visibility is false, and it's propagating to children. False, we don't have any children, so we don't have to propagate to children. But you could make that true if you have children of your hitbox mesh. And now we can just type false, hide it, it's not visible. And then afterward we can type break because we don't want to go to the other case. And then the other case is case e game mode type, : e _ practice, : and this is going to do hitbox mesh set visibility true, break. Like I said, you don't have to group these all up like this. You could manually come in here and set it on every single one. Just up to you. This is more work, but it doesn't really matter. It's very limited work right now. So you have this as an option too. I'm going to keep it how we had it here because right now they are all doing the same thing, but we can change it in the future if we need to. Now we should also have a default case. It's a default colon and we just break. And we may want to log an error or something like that if we come to this. And don't be silly like I did and put it outside of the curly brace. We need to put it inside as it's part of the switch statement. And if this is hard to read, you can make it a little bit easier by adding curly braces like this, because you can add them to cases. So this might help. And you can add the default too if you want. It's a little bit overkill if we're just doing break in here, but if you want to add something like a log, you could do UE log and log out the fact that we ran into some unexpected behavior. So I'm not going to do that right now because we have accounted for all of our enum values. So we should always be good in this case because the default, if nothing else, will be versus. And so we shouldn't really ever hit this, but it is good practice in case we update the enum later and the value we pass it is not caught. It will go to this default case. Actually, let's go ahead and add something in here. I wasn't going to, but let's make hitbox mesh visible by default if we do hit this default case. And if you want, then you can put your curly braces. And additionally, you can add space or tab here if you want to indent it. That way the curly braces don't look so bad. However you end up doing this, as long as it is similar to this or the logic is doing the same action, then this is all we really need to set the visibility based on the game mode type. Now additionally, one thing I want to update in this file is some people were mentioning that they had to include the fighter template character in this class because we forward declared it here in the header. Including it would have been a circular dependency because the character.h includes the hitbox class, hitboxactor.h. So we forward declared it to get around that, and then in the CPP we did not have access to it. I did not run into this problem, but to be on the safe side, you can feel free to add it now if you want, even if you're not running into the issue. Pound include, then fighter template character.h. And again, I did not have to do this, but some people were saying that they had to do that when trying to reference the hitbox owner. And it can be good practice to include what you use anyway. So even if you're getting the include for free through a different include, meaning say base game instance.h included fighter template character, stating it here explicitly makes it easier for the user, for the programmer to understand what they're going to be doing with that. So this is an option you always have. Now at this point, we can relaunch the editor. At this point, the editor is back open and we can go back to our hitbox actor blueprint. And when we get in here, we want to go to the function we replaced and make sure that we find all references of it because we are going to replace them with our C++ version. So right click on set visibility based off game mode, find all references, and then just start at the top. We see that there are 3. We're just going to replace them one at a time with our code function, which is called set visibility based on game mode type. To put this function in and just replace the reference, make sure you hook everything up like it was before. Once we do this one, we'll go down to the next function or next reference, and all of these are going to be in spawn hitbox in our hitbox actor BP. Once you replace all the function calls and compile and save, you will be able to remove the blueprint function and make sure that everything works as expected. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video helped you clean up your hitboxes even further and clean up your game in general. If it did and you enjoyed, please subscribe and consider joining the Patreon, YouTube membership, and Discord subscriptions to benefit the channel and myself. I'm really grateful and I appreciate all who have. Thank you guys so much. If you ran into any problems following this tutorial or any of my tutorials, feel free to join the Discord community. There is a link in the description and I would be happy to give you support. That support is completely free. So thank you so much for watching. I'm Shawnthebro and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye guys.